Hi, I'm James VanOsdol, and I host the nightly Carne podcast, which you can hear everywhere and watch on YouTube and Facebook. That man on screen with me, he is Brent Sopel. He's a retired professional hockey player, and as a defenseman, he played professional hockey in the NHL, KHL, and AHL. In 2010, he won the Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks. Brent Sopel is dyslexic, and he's the founder of the Brent Sopel Foundation. He's known for playing professional hockey, but he would like for his legacy to be that he did everything within his power to assist dyslexic children everywhere. And that leads us to the You Are Not Alone series, which this interview is part of. Our guest this week is, quite simply, the best diver in the history of the sport. He's won 4 gold medals and 1 silver medal in the Olympic Games, and he has plenty of medals and honors beyond that. In his personal life, he came out as HIV positive in the late 80s and has done a lot of substantive work as a gay rights and HIV awareness advocate. He's written books. He's been the subject of his own 30 for 30 short on ESPN, Thicker Than Water. He's appeared on TV shows like Portlandia and Entourage. He is a legend. He is an icon. He's an inspiration. Our guest this week, Greg Louganis.
But it's an absolute pleasure to interview. I always enjoy interviewing other dyslexics.
Yeah,
there's so very few of us out there.
There's actually quite a few.
You know what? Statistically, you're right. But how many actually talk about it?
Well, Bruce Jenner, or Caitlyn now, did. Who else? I mean, Jackie Joyner.
Yeah. There's a lot of them, but
there's a lot of them.
But when I say talk about it, talk about the raw truth. I know, you found out at a young age, and you were bullied, and I was the bully in high school.
I know. I was gonna say you would be the one who would be beating me up.
Yeah. and you're right. And it's being the ex-player, I'm 6'2", 250 pounds, and I didn't find out till 10 years ago I was dyslexic. So yes, I was the bully, and I've reached out to the people I've bullied and apologized, and that was my way of handling things.
Right.
Without even knowing, and it's sad.
Exactly.
I had to take it out on somebody.
Right, and see, that's kind of like what happened to me when I, the kid who beat me up at the bus stop. What I learned, all these years later, that he was from an abusive home. His father was very abusive. He was. I'm pretty sure that there was drugs and alcohol involved, and also it was just really, he was in pain, and that's what, even being the subject of, being bullied, then, the reason why that happens is, that other person is in pain, so, I'm, it's funny because I wrote a thing about I want to thank the bullies in my life, because really, in a sense, it's one of those, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and also, it's also was motivation for me, to be the best, and also it was tinged with the dyslexia as well. Because I didn't feel like I had my academics. I couldn't read like the other kids, and so, but I could dance, and I could do acrobatics, and I could do gymnastics, and I could dive. So, and I didn't see any value in that. And I really didn't until I started working with this one therapist. He mentioned that there are all types
of course
different,
there's a dog. Of course there's a dog.
Of course. There's all types of intelligence.
Yeah.
And that my intelligence was, how physically gifted I was to be aware of how my body moved, and that spatial awareness. So here's the culprit.
All right, full stop. Full stop. What's the breed? What's the dog's name?
This is Gerard, but we call him G-Man, and he's a Hungarian Pumi. He's 5 months old, and so he's in the learning process. I train for dog agility. So I train dogs. So
Oh, no,
There isn't anything that you don't do, Greg. So
you know what? I have I mean, I have such a strange, like, I don't know, journey of my life, from the Olympics, and then, I did a one-man show in New York. I train dogs, I speak, it's like crazy. It's like,
no.
well, what do you want to do when you grow up? It's like, well, I'll try this, I'll try that, and I jump in, right, with all four, fully, both feet.
That's interesting. You just said that you jump into anything fully, because I'm either in all the way and
Yep.
usually too far, or I'm all the way back out. So
Yeah.
I've never really thought about it until you just mentioned. Is that the dyslexic side of us because we don't know how to be any other way? I don't know. I just clicked into my head as you said that.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be because, because like it's funny because like I was talking to a psychologist friend of mine, who did a lot of work with our team when I was growing up in diving, but he also went on to Juilliard and was working with artists.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh my God, Greg, you're like so right brain," because I explained some things that happened to me, like when I was doing the one-man show in New York. The second night with an audience, I went up in the second scene, which is the actor's nightmare, and it's like it was a one-man show, so I couldn't leave the stage. I was the only actor out there, and so I'm thinking, oh my God, the script's backstage. The stage manager is working the lights, so I can't call line. And then when I did the imaginary work in preparation, that each one of the characters, I played 14 different characters. Each one of the different characters had a different color to me in my imaginary work. So when I thought of the color, it brought me back into that, and he explained to me, he said, oh, that makes so much sense because, performance and colors live in your right brain. And when you're thinking left brain, where the script is and the manager is on, working lights, that's left brain. But as soon as you went to right brain, brought you right back into, that performance. So, I mean, I thought that was fascinating.
It's funny you said that because, I'm looking at writing some children's books right now. And so I've never read a book in my life.
Yeah.
My kids, I told them stories. And the characters were Pinky, Greeny, Bluey, Yellowy, and Blackie. That's just my right brain telling them stories. So It's interesting that you just said that because I've never put the correlation together so you just said that. So, and this is why I enjoy talking to dyslexics, because every time I have a conversation, I learn more about myself, because it's two things just right there that I learn about myself just by listening to you talk.
Yeah, and Brent, I mean, I didn't know dyslexia growing up. That was not because I'm 61 now, and so so yeah, I just turned 61, and so but when going to school, I was labeled as slow, lazy, didn't apply myself, all of those things. Yeah. And so, but I was like, it was really challenging. I mean, it was really hard. And so it wasn't until I was a freshman, my freshman college English class, I was given dyslexia as a vocabulary word in my freshman English class. And I read it like, oh my God, I'm not retarded. I'm not a moron. I'm not all of these names that they called me when I was growing up that I believed. And so, and then I was later on diagnosed dyslexic. But I had an opportunity to go to lab school in DC, and that was wonderful because they talk about LD as a learning difference, that we learn differently. And see, with all the dog training that I do, it's like every animal, every person, human being, everyone is able to learn. That we all learn in different ways. And so it just really kind of helped me be a lot more open to things that might come up, like, you know, different colors of the characters when I'm memorizing, you know, the scenes, um, you know, and those types of things, you know, to be aware of it and not judge it, and just, you know, and just allow it, you
And
know,
that's
and not really dismiss it.
and
You know,
that's
that
what's so
means
amazing
something.
about you talking about it. Because if we don't have these conversations, you know, people aren't going to learn. You know, I call it a learning disorder because I say the world's not educated enough to know the difference.
Right.
You know, you see, you know, that's where they always say negative news always travels faster, longer, and further than positive. You know, so
Yeah.
if I say, you know, learning disorder, all people kind of pay attention. You know, I call it learning difference. Like, okay, you know, kind of turn their head and nod. So, you know, I still call it learning difference to get people's attention, to tell them
Right.
to learn, you know, disorder, or excuse me, learn disorder rather than difference.
Right.
And that's where the world is. So I commend you to be open and talking about it. You know, I call my document here to change the world, but you yourself, you know, you've changed the world. And first, as being an athlete, I never got to represent the country. How did it feel to represent your country? You're talking to a hockey player who can't swim, who's minus 50.
I'll teach you how to swim, Brent.
Like a
I'll teach
rock.
you how to swim.
I
I
watched your video. You go in and out of the water fast. You know, and I'm like a cat in the water. If I'm going in, I'm going all the way to the bottom. So
Yeah.
what it is to represent the country, you know, to hold that to your heart the way you did, and especially, you know, what you were going through, you know, coming out HIV positive, and it's just a tremendous, just a tremendous man you are. But how is it having, you know, standing there, you know, with that country on your shoulders?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I'm a firm believer you don't achieve greatness on your own. And so I couldn't have done it without my coach, Ron O'Brien, you know, especially getting through the '88 Olympic Games after I hit my head on the springboard and coming back. You know, he was there for me, and he knew me, because, you know, I couldn't have done it without him. But, you know, as far as representing your country, I mean, my first Olympics, I was 16.
Yeah.
And so that was in Montreal. And,
God's
you know,
country. That's like
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And so, you know, but that was heavy. That was kind of the first time, you know, you're representing the United States. But I learned, I mean, it's just, you can't carry that weight on your shoulders. You know,
No,
all you can do is do your absolute best, you know, you know,
you only
and
control yourself, but you know what that mean to you? 16, and you know, 16 is too young to drive a car.
you
16
know,
is too young to shoot a gun, to drink, but never mind
Brent,
to represent your country.
but Brent, you know, I was in the sport of diving. I mean, diving. I didn't think anybody was going to stay home on a weekend and sit in front of a TV and watch me, you know, watch this crazy diving competition. I didn't have a clue. You know, it wasn't until after, you know, the Olympics, you know, my parents and I were heading back to San Diego, and I think we had a layover in Chicago, and, you know, people were like staring at me, and I'm like looking down, checking to see if my fly's open. You know, it's like, and I said, Mom, why, you know, and this businessman, you know, kept looking at me, and I was like, Mom, do I know that guy? I said, no, he probably saw you on TV. I said, saw me on TV? He said, yeah, you know, the Olympics. I said, people watch that? You know, I had no idea. I mean, I just really, you know, I was an active kid, so I wouldn't be at home on a weekend in front of the TV watching a sporting event. I would want to be out there doing, you know, whatever it was, you know, whether it was hiking or, you know, swimming or diving or gymnastics or something. You know, it's not something that would dawn on me that I would be, you know, kind of following. It wasn't until years later that I understood that.
You know,
What?
for myself, you know, my spatial awareness, which again, I didn't find out until I was 33. You know, I played 18 years pro. You know, now I connect the dots. You know, my spatial awareness for my dyslexia is what made me successful.
Right.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. There are so many gifts, in that, that treasure trove, because you learn differently. And so there's certain things that, come to you naturally
Yeah.
that, to other people, they really have to work hard for. And some of them don't even get it.
No, and that's, for me, it's being misunderstood all the time.
Yeah.
Look, it's like a deer in headlights. Like, back to it brings me back to a lot of the childhood. Like, are you stupid? What are you talking about? Because that's, they just don't see it. And for me, I know you've struggled with depression, and I have too. And life after hockey hasn't been easy. It has been the transition. And I want to go back to when you hit your head on the board. I always see, I played with broken bones. I've got 3 herniated discs in my back. But I said, there's nothing I wouldn't do. I could play through pain, because you never knew what was in the inside, the pain I had in the inside.
Right.
When you hit your head, when you went through that, and to get back up, to get stitched up, to get back on the board and dominate, was that something, was that pain on the outside nowhere near what it had on the inside, like something like myself?
Well, when that happened, because a dive takes less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And so, when that happened, I lost all confidence in, my ability. And so, and it was a tough decision. There was a lot. I knew in my heart that those were my last competitive dives. I didn't share that with anyone, not even my coach, Juan O'Brien. But, when that happened, I thought I was out of the competition, totally out, but I had 2 more dives. And so when, my coach said, no, you're not out, you need to complete your next 2 dives, and you're not out of the running. You could still make finals, because I had done, well up to that point. And I said, fine. I said, we've worked too long and hard to get here, and I don't want to give up without a fight. And so he said, okay, come on, let's go. And he took me for a walk. And it's funny, because what he said, oh, hockey players, they get, 30 stitches in their leg, and they get back on the ice. You had 5 stitches on your head. It's nothing. We were joking around, just kind of lightening up the mood. And, and that really is, where I learned, how, everybody asked me, how do you deal with fear? And basically what I did was, pretty much the same process. I made the situation worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So ridiculous that it's like, there's no way it's going to happen. I'm not going to hit the board again, and then when I can laugh at it, laughter takes the power out of that fear. Yeah. If you can bring it to a point where you can laugh at it, then it takes the power out of that fear. And when I stood up for my next dive, and they announced the dive, and it was the same direction, and then you could hear an audible gasp from the audience. And I took a deep breath and patted my chest, because it felt like my heart was beating outside my chest. And then the people in the vicinity who saw that started chuckling, because they realized, oh my God, he's scared too. We're scared for him. And I'm like, I just started laughing, because like, oh my God, these people are like in my corner, and so I didn't feel like
after that, the whole world.
Yeah, but your perception is, kind of right there, so it just kind of drove the point home that, I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that's all people need, is just knowing that they're not alone.
And that's the number 1 tagline I use for my foundation. You're not alone. Now if that's, I've been sober over 1,600 days. I know you've gone through it, and it doesn't matter if it's alcohol or drugs or it's depression or, if it's being gay or whatever it is. No matter when you're in that battle, you think you're alone. And, as dyslexics, we love to overthink. So I The scenarios I can build in my head in 10 minutes, people would be, what is wrong with you? I'm like, you have no idea. So I can
Yeah.
imagine the scenarios that you built on, standing up on that board right there.
Yeah.
Just again, got to commend you for what you did. You're an icon and, in the sport and the world for what you've done, dyslexic side to what you do on a daily basis and your books and the inspiration you are, start to finish is just absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Well, Brent, my hat's off to you, coming forward and also recognizing, the bully that was hurting, recognizing that bully in you that was hurting, and just and going through that, because it's not easy to admit that, we can be not very nice people, and oftentimes when somebody is not being nice, it's because either they're confused or they're hurting, and in getting over that hurt, being aware of those mistakes and stepping forward and owning it to move on. It's so powerful. I mean, what you've done is incredible.
Well,
So I really commend you for that.
Change yourself, and the hardest person in the world is yourself to change, to look yourself. And I always say the hardest person to love is yourself.
Yeah, that's
love
why I love this song, Michael Jackson's "Man in the Mirror." That's like one of my favorite songs, because it really, I mean, it starts with who you see in the mirror. That's where it starts.
And you talk about people being mean or bad because they're not happy with who they are.
Right.
Are they not happy with, it took me getting sober to be okay with being dyslexic.
Yeah.
I love how you always said, you didn't think you're going to see age 30. I said for years, I didn't think I was going to see the age of 40 years old. I thought I was going to be dead.
Yeah.
So when you said that, you say that, I'm like, oh, it's like listening to myself, and here I am, just turned 40. My body's 74, my brain's 74 from all the hockey, but here I am, 44. Sitting here with you guys tonight on a Sunday night, and blessed to be here, and so thankful for both your time. But let's talk about when you came out to be gay. That's a lot, to come out. And, I don't know if you know, I was the first athlete to ever participate in Pride Parade in the world.
Wow.
I won the Stanley Cup in 2010 in Chicago. I took the cup to the Pride Parade in Chicago in 2010. So, I support you and commend what you did. Again, just another avenue where you changed the world.
Yeah. I mean, things have changed tremendously, but there's often the daily battles in smaller communities and smaller towns, but it wasn't easy, but at the same time I needed to do it for myself. I needed to do it to be, really true to myself. I mean, a lot of people ask, when did you come out? And it's like, well, I was out to my friends and family. It was just my policy not to discuss my personal life with members of the media. And then when the book came out, Breaking the Surface, I knew I was going to be talking about my sexual identity and then my HIV, which, was kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
So, so I really had to prepare for that.
But you had the love and support of your family, and that's, again, people always talk about, I counsel a lot of people and talk about, you got to love yourself, and you got to take care of the ones that are close to you, because that's all you have. You can't have a million friends because you don't have time for a million friends. Just have a few quality friends, and you need, have the love and support of your family, which allowed you to get here today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have done it without, the support that I had from my mom. She loved me unconditionally. I know Dad had a rough time with my sexual identity and all that. He was, very traditional Greek, but you know, at least we were able to come full circle. He passed in 91 and I took care of him the last 6 weeks of his life. And there was so much healing that happened. And I was just so grateful and felt so honored to, you know, to share that time with my dad and to really come full circle. So that was a blessing. Mom was always there, you know, that was the biggest blow in my life, you know, was losing my mom in 04. So
That's an amazing story, though, that you were okay yourself to have that healing with your dad.
yeah.
You know, and that to me, you know, it's beautiful in itself that you had healed, you had processed everything you know, you had to and you needed to through your mom and through your family to when that time came with your dad, you were able to. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And now, because I'm adopted, and so I've connected with my biological father, and they're just wonderful, and you know, and it's great. It's, you know, so, you know, yeah, I also feel like I'm being accepted as a whole person, you know, and not just, you know, pieces of me, you know, not just, you know, the diver, you know, it's okay over here, it's okay, the actor, the dancer, you know, so, but to have it all kind of coming together, you know, and integrating the, you know, the whole, everything of who I am.
And I know that, you know, just those words, be accepted for who you are and not pieces, you know, that resonates with me, you know, so much. You know, I used to have so many friends because I played hockey. You know, I used to do this. You know, they weren't friends. And to be accepted and understood, you know, the feeling I have in here is a feeling that, you know, most people will never understand. Obviously, you know, being an Olympic medalist and putting on that, you know, that shirt every day, and then having everything else going on, to be loved completely.
Yeah.
That's, you know, one human being. That's all we want to be, loved unconditionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you know, I struggle with that. And you know, when you did the body issue, how old were you when you did the body issue for ESPN? Because let me say that your body's better looking than mine ever has been, so I'm jealous.
Oh my God, that was just a few years ago. I mean, so I was what, 50?
All right, we don't need any more. That's it. 50, whatever.
I was 50. I think I was 58.
Wow, you know, again, it's just amazing that you know, way you looked, and what people don't understand is the way you look. It goes from the inside out.
Exactly.
You love yourself from the inside out. From the conversations I've had, you know, everything I've, you know, read upon you and been a part of your life, you know, from a distance. You love who you are here, and you don't try and paste yourself, you know, with tape and masking tape, duct tape on the outside in. You love yourself here, and that's why you are where you're today. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, it's true. I mean, it all starts with you, you know, because how can you love others if you can't love yourself? You know, you can't give what you don't have.
And that's the hardest thing ever, is to, again, go back to, you know, what we talked on, is to love yourself. And I had to go to rehab and I had to get sober to be okay with who I am and be okay. You know, I was reading at a grade 4 level in high school and struggling and going from hockey, you know, retiring from hockey, and what am I going to do? What am I going to get a job? I don't have this. I had to be okay with who I am and look in the mirror and say, I love you. And to be able to transfer that to my kids and, you know, to the love of my life. And it's just the people don't understand that. And that's 2020 to me was you know, was a great year for the people. That it was a message from God to slow down, take a look at yourself, be with your family, you know, and reflect on who you are. You know, obviously the people that have passed away and things like that, you know, God rest their soul. But if you did the work on yourself, the hard work, I think, you know, you're in a good position today. And I think the people who didn't are the ones that are really struggling today.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And that's what, you know, because as soon as the, you know, the quarantine and all started happening, it was, you know, I started working, I knew I had to work on myself,
Yeah.
you know, and so, you know, I was in a tough place in my relationship. And I was like, well, I've got to figure this out. And so, you know, and we've both been working, and it's, you know, it's been so wonderful, you know, to kind of, you know, because, you know, he's sober as well, you know, and I'm sober, you know, but we all have challenges, you know, we all have times, you know, but also, you know, just being aware of, you know, the reality of the situation. You know, it's like Byron Katie's book, you know, Loving What Is, you know, loving where you're at and what actually is, not what we think it is, not the stories that we tell ourselves, not the stories that other people tell us,
Yeah.
you know, but loving what is actually in front of us.
And that can be tough, and that's where a partner can be really helpful. You know, because in my head, I wonder, you know, what I made up. Did that actually happen, or was I making that up? Did I make all that happen? Did I go fight that person, and did I do that? Or, you know, so the fact that you could take the time to work with each other, connect even more, can really help out in that side of the mind.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's funny because like we have one of our sober friends said, "Oh yeah, my mind is a dangerous neighborhood. I never go up there alone."
I like to call mine the rabbit hole. If I go down that rabbit hole, I don't know where I'm coming out. It might be next city, might be next country.
Yeah.
It could be Italy, it could be Russia. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a scary
place. It's definitely a different zip code.
It might even take me back to my home country, God's country in Canada, where we call it postal codes.
Yeah.
Greg, I want to pivot off a couple of things you were talking about earlier.
Sure.
Silver medalist at the age of 16. I need to have a talk with my kids about where they're at in their lives.
Those underachievers. Oh my God.
I got my 16-year-old. I'm going to call her after too.
But what an interesting balance, though. I mean, here you are, you're tough childhood, you're wrestling with dyslexia, and then on the other hand, you're winning the silver medal in the Olympics. What does that do to you, to your head emotionally? Because kids are messed up emotionally just in general at the age of 16.
Oh yeah.
All this swirling around. How did you reconcile? How do you stay grounded, I guess?
Well, it was, you know, a lot of the kids in high school, because I was a sophomore, you know, going to the Olympics, but you know, a lot of the kids didn't know what I did. I kept it away from a lot of people. One thing that I did do is I did help coach the men's and women's dive team from freshman on, but they just thought I was a pretty good diver. You know, they didn't know that the caliber of diver was world class, so I didn't share that with them. I didn't think they would be interested. So it was really interesting when I came back from Montreal with a silver medal. Everybody was celebrating me, and I didn't understand it because I went there to win. I didn't go there to take second, because Dr. Sammy Lee was coaching me at that time. He was Olympic gold medalist in 48 and 52. He was coaching me to beat Klaus DiBiase from Italy, who was going for his third Olympic gold medal, and I failed. So coming home, I thought I was a failure. So it was really confusing when I got home because everybody was celebrating me and I didn't feel worthy.
Wow. I mean, in hindsight, looking back, you realize the silver is a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, it took many years before I could hold that silver medal with any pride.
Wow.
It took decades.
Question for you. Did you not tell the kids in your high school because you thought that they didn't care, or was it your head telling yourself they're not going to care?
Well, it was in my head, you know, because obviously it was in my head, because, you know, when I was in third grade, I did a acrobatic and modern dance routine to Tears of a Clown, and I got beat up for that, you know, because I was a sissy. And
look where you are, right? you know?
Yeah, and so, you know, that's where my head went to, what my story I was telling myself was that, oh, they don't care, they don't, you know. But I did go to my, what was it, my 30-year reunion. I went to one of my reunions, and I couldn't go to my 10-year reunion because I was at the Olympic Games. And so then I didn't go to 10, 20. I went to my 30-year reunion. And at my 30-year reunion, I just went on a whim, went down there, and somebody brought up that when I did that dance in 3rd grade, I said, "Oh my God, here it comes," you know, and all the people around say, "Oh my God, yeah, I can't believe, we couldn't believe that a kid our age could do something like that. That was so awesome." I mean, and they were like, I was like, "Oh my God, you're kidding," you know. But those are the voices when you're a kid you don't hear.
Yeah.
And
You know, kids don't share those things.
you know, that's the real dyslexic side of us, are those voices. From
Yeah.
a very young age, and they only get bigger and bigger as the older we get and have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah.
back to learning you're HIV positive,
Yeah.
thinking about where we're at in the present day, we're recording this in 2021. PrEP is a thing. So many advances have happened in the past few decades. Back in the late 80s, getting diagnosed with HIV for a lot of people was a death sentence.
It was a death sentence, yeah.
Could you ever have imagined, one, being around today, two, seeing the advances that have been made so far?
No, I mean, because like when I was diagnosed in '88, 6 months prior to the Olympic Games, you know, I honestly did not believe I'd see 30. I mean, even my doctors were saying, you know, get your affairs in order. And so then, you know, time, you know, progressed, and, you know, the protease inhibitors came on. You know, it's been difficult, you know, because I viaticated my life insurance policy. You know, I mean, there were so many things I certainly wasn't saving up for retirement, you know.
Right.
No, like I think I was smart enough to, you know, to save a bit, but, you know, I wasn't planning for the future. You know, I wasn't really planning on being here. So, I mean, I even had my 33rd birthday. I thought I was telling everybody goodbye. You know, because
And now you're 61.
Yeah, now I'm 61.
30 years
Now I'm 61 looking for a job. You know anyone hiring?
Hang on. I'm 44 looking for a job. You want to team up?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
We're 100 something together. We can do something.
Of course. I'm sure we got so much to offer.
For people who are listening and not watching, what they're not seeing is the fact that Greg Louganis has somehow reversed the aging process. He says he's in his 60s. He looks like he's 15, 20 years younger. It's almost
100%.
supernatural, whatever you're doing, Greg.
He looks younger than I do.
I think I have my biological father to thank, because he's Samoan, and so I think that's got a lot to do with that. But also too, I mean, you know, it's all in, you know, in you know what priorities you have. I mean, and that's the thing. You know, my priorities each day, you know, get my yoga practice in, get in my meditation, all of those, you know, all of those self-care type things that oftentimes we have a tendency to neglect.
For sure. You wrote your autobiography 25 years ago. Do you feel any need to add to the story? I mean, lots has happened since then.
Yeah, a lot has happened since then, and yeah, I mean, I've been mulling over what that next book is, because I also wrote a canine care book for the life of your dog, and it's a basic care, you know, birth to death and grieving, you know, the entire life of a dog. But yeah, I think there's another book in there. So
I would imagine.
There's no question, you know, you're past 30 years past where you thought you could be in life. You've never been in a place mentally, spiritually, physically than you are today. So, you know, I'm not very good at math, but I think there's a book there.
And
Yeah.
speaking of dogs, this is a selfish question, and it may not be a question you can answer. I have a Bernese mountain dog. Are they, in fact, the most stubborn dogs known to the modern world?
Bernese mountain dogs, they're awesome. It just, you got to figure out what they like. Because burners can be, independent, but you have to figure out what they like. I mean, I had this one dog. It was a Mastiff that wasn't real food motivated, wasn't real toy motivated, but would go nuts for like a plastic gallon jug.
What
Because
container full of beer, or was something in there? Am I missing something?
like the milk jug,
Yeah.
the gallon milk jug.
That's awesome.
And he would like pounce on it. He would, his mouth was big enough. He could, crunch it in his mouth. He'd do anything for that. So the key is finding what they like. And it may not be what you expect.
For sure. Going back to your advocacy and support of the LGBTQ world, are professional athletics better with their acceptance of LGBTQ in the present day?
I think they're better. I think definitely, they're better, a lot more awareness. We've got All Out Sports, we've got Athlete Ally. There's quite a few organizations that are out there that are welcoming to the LGBTQ plus community. I think I just joined with Nancy Hogshead Makar. Trans, that's a whole nother thing. And I've been blessed because not a whole, I when I would do speaking engagements, talk about the LGBTQ plus community, I was like, look, I know a lot about the G in the LGBTQ plus community, but I had to learn about those other letters. And I was blessed to be doing a show in Chicago. I did Just Say No with Alexandra Billings, who is the first transgender that that I knew of, and had wonderful discussions with her, and awareness, and Larry Kramer was just incredible, God rest his soul. And then also Kristen Worley, I was on a panel with her in Australia. And so there's so much, and really within the trans community, I mean, there's as many different stories as there are people. And so just be open and aware, and just having, and I told Nancy, I said, I'm so grateful that we're finally having these discussions, about trans athletes, and bringing things fairly, comprehensively, and just having that communication open is so important, to being on a path of acceptance and embracing, the trans community.
Little off topic. How did it feel to watch Mario Lopez play you in the TV movie adaptation?
I thought he did a good job. It was funny because I body doubled him at the time. I did the diving, and it was funny because when I was on set, we started talking. I said, "Oh yeah, I grew up in Chula Vista," and I said, "Oh my God, I grew up in El Cajon," which are right next to each other. And then we started talking about our upbringing, and I did talent contests at Grossmont High, and it was a big, huge talent contest. Oh my God, I was in that same one, years after me. But, it was so cool that we had very similar upbringings. And I used to, jab him, that, I should look so good, because he looked pretty hot. And it was like, I should look so good, it's like, okay, yeah. But, but we're also working on a new biopic, so could have a different look.
That's awesome. We've talked so much about the positivity and you as a role model and as an icon, Greg. Mental health has been such an important topic
Yeah.
over the past year as we've all been isolated, cut off from what we usually do, who we usually see. After overcoming and achieving everything that you have, what would you tell that kid, that adult, that person who's struggling to be heard, especially now, struggling to fit in and find hope at the end of the tunnel?
You know, there's it's really important to it's hard to connect because of the quarantine and all that, but finding outlets, creative outlets are so important, whether that is music, whether that is writing, whether that is photography or film or different things, different things, the way that you can kind of capture things for yourself, that are that things that you can really celebrate. And I think that that's really important. There's all kinds of support groups that are out there too on Zoom, and finding those support groups is very important, because like Brent said, I mean, it is so important to realize that we're not alone, because that's when suicide happens, is when we feel isolated, we feel alone, and we feel that absolutely nobody will understand us. And it's so important, especially for young people, to know that others have come before, and there are other people who are going through the same things that you are. So you're never alone. You may feel alone, but you're never alone. And suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Well said.
And, with men, it's like 70% of the suicides are men, because
Yep.
of that ego. Because it's, obviously men and women are very different, and women want the strong guy and the man to reach out to one of us.
Yeah.
Greg, you've been through everything, and look at, you've never been better. And myself, I've been through hell and back, and here I am. Reach out to one of us. It's because if we don't support each other and don't help each other, what do we got? We've got nothing. God's granted to be here today, and both you gentlemen. And if somebody needs something, the day of the Zoom, it's a lot easier to reach out. Before, Greg, there was no support groups for you. You had to drive around, in California, or drive to find one. Now you can get online and you can find somebody, or you can find that support. So know that somebody's out there for you.
Yeah, definitely. And reach out, don't be afraid, because really you can't help somebody else without helping yourself. So when you reach out to somebody, if you're hurting and you feel like you're being a bother to somebody, you are not, because by reaching out, what you're doing is filling that person up with their value, and oftentimes, like, one thing that happened, to me was somebody wrote me a note, like 15 years after we had first met. And I'm telling you, that note has saved my life at times. I keep that note very close to me, because, it's never completely all over. When you're dealing with depression, you have, peaks and valleys. It can be a bit of a roller coaster. But I mean, I keep that note, close to me, because he commented that I saved his life, but in turn, he saves my life anytime I feel down, because I can take that note and that will fill me up
And
and give me the
everybody says, "Oh, I don't want to burden somebody." No, you're not burdening us. You're actually helping us.
You're helping us. You're throwing us a lifeline.
Yes. 100%.
By reaching out to somebody else, that person that you're reaching out to, you're throwing them a lifeline, because you're giving their life purpose.
Correct. And that's the biggest thing. And I get that. Oh, I don't want to bother you. No, you're not bothering. You're saving me. You're throwing me.
Exactly.
You're throwing me a life jacket when I'm trying to swim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, you know, and don't be mistaken, anybody who ever can listen to this or hear this, you're not a burden to me or Greg or anybody. You know, you're saving us in ways that, you know, we hope you'll find out yourself when you get down this road.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, it sounds like your dogs might need a little trip outside or some
They
Greg
might.
time.
Well, actually, you know, because my birthday was Friday, so I'm at a friend's house and they made dinner for me, a little birthday dinner. So
Uh,
I think they're about ready to serve
oh,
cake.
yeah.
We're certainly not going to keep you.
Happy birthday. You know,
Thank you.
you're a Capricorn or
Aquarius.
Aquarius? I'm a Capricorn, so we're close enough.
Oh, when's your birthday?
January 7th.
Okay, my husband's January 4.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's that book, The Outliers? They, you know, they talk
Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what the all professional athletes come with birthdays in the first 3 months.
Right. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Because Malcolm Gladwell, you know, that's what started Outliers was hockey.
Yep.
Yep.
Prime example, January 7th.
That's it.
You know, we'll leave. I know it's your birthday dinner. Thank you for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor that you took time out of your birthday dinner. So please apologize for me to your family and friends.
No worries.
And if you're hearing Greg talk and be so giving with his thoughts and his story, I just want to give him a hug. Like after.
Oh, thank you.